After the conclusion of the 150 laps of Dwyer, Jaguar Racing officials announced that Shane Lake had been ejected from the 155 car. The official reason given was poor chemistry between Lake and the rest of the team. However, just about everybody familiar with the situation can figure out that the team has not been happy with Lake's multiple outbursts about their performance this season. Lake also revealed that he had been racing on a broken ankle and he had kept it secret from the team, and it is widely believed that this is what sealed his fate. I personally believe that Jaguar Racing is overreacting about Lake's behavior, and this decision is costing them their primary sponsorship. Lake had his steakhouse chain plastered on both of the team's cars, but he immediately pulled his sponsorship upon his release. Jaguar Racing has hired Ashley Tucker to drive the 155 car for the rest of the season. Tucker had a fairly impressive run at the 150 laps of Dwyer, and she is also bringing personal sponsorship. I apologize for running a bit long, so I will hand it off to Scott for the race. Thank you, Earl. Chris Johans takes the Smash Beer Pole Award for round 1 of the Waltham 250 presented by Sommerlabs. He gets a pretty good start over his teammate and cousin Kevin Monroe, and then in third is Michael Matrigal in the car that Johans used to drive. But we didn't have much time for nostalgia as the first caution came out on the first lap. Rachel Gonzalez didn't qualify well, and she seems to take out her frustrations on AJ Young. She spins the 55 car coming off of turn number 6. However, Young gets going again, and you see that Gonzalez was promptly handed a warning. Chris Johans leads on the restart, and Alex Graff moved up to second before the caution came out. Graff is getting his stint in the 08 car previously occupied by Laura Cyrus, and he is picked up right where Cyrus left off, running up at the front of the field. However, he is now being challenged by Robert Scott and Kevin Monroe, while Chris Johans tries to drive away. Barry Spangler is giving the LaCoya chassis its debut in ARLA competition, and here he is in a gripping battle with Jason Kruger for the all-important position of 37. So Barry Spangler, running towards the back, can only improve in his first career start. Harry Enola wants the lead from Chris Johans, and he has Siju Dejau in tow, but then Enola opens up the door for Dejau coming into turn number 2. Dejau has more support on the inside, so he is going to have an advantage over the 45 car. And now coming through the downhill run, Dejau shuts the door on Enola. Robert Scott makes his way to the right side of the 37, but Dejau has the advantage. It's been no secret that Dejau's ride with MRD Motorsports is in serious trouble. Team owner Tom Delgado has given him permission to talk with other teams. However, he is showing a lot more speed in the early stages of this race than he has for most of the season. Chris Johans retakes the lead of the race a few laps later. Dejau gets a push from Alex Graff, but Johans closes the door on him coming through turn number 7. But then Harry Enola gets a big run and makes it 4 wide for the lead with Graff, Dejau, and Johans. Coming through turn number 2, Johans washes up the track and goes into the wall. And he is going to lose several positions and pancake the right side of that car. Johans immediately went on his radio and claimed that Enola's move was over-aggressive, but officials told him to deal with it and move on. Here is Ashley Tucker, as Earl mentioned before the race. She will be driving the 155 Jaguar Racing entry for the rest of the year. She drove her way up into the top 10 at the 150 laps of Dwyer through pit strategy. However, her team had tire problems and fell out of contention, but today she is having a respectable top 20 run so far. Siju Dejau retakes the lead, but Harry Enola is hounding him. He wants that spot back. Britt Tyler in the 16 catches up to this group with a pretty big run. Brenda Riggs has a mechanical problem as the 67 suddenly slows down on her. However, she quickly gets the car off the track. Riggs will rejoin the race, but she will fall off the lead lap. Laura Cyrus continues to prove that this is her breakout season with another great top 5 run. Cyrus is driving the 50 car in place of the injured Leslie Riggs for the rest of the season, and this will probably be her best opportunity to finally get that first win. Kurt Walker is going to have a problem shortly after Brenda Riggs. The 98 car slows to a crawl, but Kurt Walker will rejoin the race. However, he will be a few laps off pace. Nick Howard kicks off green flag pit stops. Following him in will be David Krikorian, and I believe that's CJ Cameron in the 313. Taylor Brellan will lead a second group of cars into the pits. And her teammate Michael Madrigal runs into the back of the 65 as she tries to get into her stall. Madrigal was only handed a warning for this. We believe that this is because his damage will affect him a lot more than the 65. On the next lap, Andy Pearson leads a group of cars into the pits, and Bob Steffens runs into the back of the 49 of Henrietta Laverne as Laverne was slowing to get into her pit stall. Harry Inola will lead the next group of cars into the pits, and thankfully we have no pit lane collisions this time around. Shortly after a pit stop cycle out, Kurt Walker finds himself in the middle of the lead group. He is running a couple of laps down, but he is able to keep up with everyone else. However, depending on who you ask, this can be just as annoying as an extremely slow back marker. The second caution comes out with just 5 laps to go. Kevin Monroe gets together with teammate Taylor Brillen, which takes Namimura and Tyson Lautenschlager into the wall with them. Lautenschlager slides down the track. He gets hammered by Gary D'Souza, Amy Patty, and Bob Steffens. You also saw Jarko Forstrom in the 38 get collected as well, and there is Ashley Tucker. She got collected in this wreck after a top 20 run. Here's the aerial shot. Kevin Monroe tries to go 4 wide. Taylor Brillen pushes off the track just a little bit, but Monroe, it looks like, still gave Mura a little too much room, and Lautenschlager just gets hammered by several cars, but thankfully he was able to climb out of the car under his own power, and there is Ashley Tucker. Here is Gary D'Souza. It looks like he just misjudges Tyson Lautenschlager's position. He hits the inside wall and comes sliding back up onto the track. And here comes Jacob Eichholz. He runs into the 149 car, and he will collect Anthony Griffith. Not sure how Eichholz managed to get involved several seconds after the accident happened. The race would restart with just 2 laps to go. Ritt Tyler is your leader. Nick Howard is in second with Harry Inola in third. Coming into turn number 1, CJ Cameron and Bigsby Foot get a big run, and then Nick Howard and Harry Inola gang up on Ritt Tyler, and the formation of a big train on the inside helps Nick Howard blow by the 16 without a problem. Nick Howard has shown flashes of brilliance this season, and he is certainly in position to break through today, but he's still got to hold off Harry Inola. Bigsby Foot now making it 3 wide for the lead on the run down into turn number 3. Nick Howard gets a big run through the right-handers of 3 and 4, but Inola starts to close in once again. Inola has not won a race since his victory on the Loudon Road Course in 2010. Howard gets a pretty good run into 5, but Inola gets an even better run coming off, and he is side by side with Howard coming down the backstretch, and Harry Inola will clear Nick Howard coming into turn number 7. Bigsby Foot is now creeping into the picture once again. The top 3 are starting to separate themselves from the pack. Howard holds his ground coming off at turn number 7, but Bigsby Foot still has a great run coming to the white flag. Foot made his ARLA debut in 2008, but he has never won a race. Second and third close up on Inola coming off of turn number 1, and there they go. They make it 3 wide for the lead coming into 2, and Bigsby Foot gets a much better run than Howard and Inola. Foot will clear Inola and Howard coming into turn number 3, and he carries a lot more speed through the corner as Howard and Inola focus on battling each other. But Inola once again gets a big run through 3 and 4. He's been really good in that set of corners. Foot is going to have to be perfect through 5 and 6. He does a good job at keeping up his momentum coming onto the backstretch, but Harry Inola does slightly better and is creeping up on the 14, coming into the long turn number 7. But Inola isn't quite moving forward fast enough to make any big runs right now, and he only has seconds remaining to make anything happen. And off the final corner, after 4 years of bad luck and mediocre finishes, Bigsby Foot finally wins an ARLA Elite Series race. Nick Howard gives the last road car another great run, and CJ Cameron, after failing to qualify for the 150 laps of Dwyer, comes back to finish 4th today. Robert Scott ran very patiently and quietly all race and is rewarded with a top 5 finish. David Krikorian finishes 6th, with Ritt Tyler, another PSI car, finishing behind him. Siju Dejao and Libby Bell were in a drag race coming to the checkered flag, with Dejao just barely claiming 8th place over Bell, but nonetheless, this puts all 3 PSI cars in the top 10, and Alex Graff finishes in 10th in another great run for that 08 car. We now go over to round number 2, where Damian Snyder has taken the Smash Beer Pole Award with Edwin Schwartzlowski on his outside. Snyder would quickly be challenged for the lead by Rene Ricarmier and Ali Riggs, but he gets a great run through 3 and 4, and he opens up a very big lead over the rest of the field. Kelly SPLISON would be making her debut in the other LaCoya in this round. She had a better qualifying run than her teammate Barry Spengler, but she gets stuck on the outside and loses several positions early on. Rene Ricarmier eventually catches up to Damian Snyder and has no problem taking the lead from the 57. Mumba Kumingu and Ali Riggs follow suit, but then Ricarmier quickly loses the lead to Dan McKay in the 10. Rumor has it that at Griesberger Racing, Dan McKay and Casey Campbell are competing for that 10 car for the 2012 season, and so far team management is leaning towards Casey Campbell, who has been very fast in her few starts this season, so McKay is probably going to have to step it up if he wants to keep his ride. Makoto Yamada is unusually fast in that 22 car early on in the race. That team has slowly been improving over the course of the season, with top 15 finishes becoming more and more frequent, but I don't think anybody expected Yamada to be quite this fast today, and it is certainly a pleasant surprise. DJ Daniels is also having a great run in the Groves Racing Machine early on in the race. Daniels' results have been less than stellar since he joined the organization in 2010, but hopefully this will give them the momentum to put out some better runs. By lap number 8, Derek Dudding is almost 30 seconds behind the leader, so Dudding, who has been off the pace all season, is looking to be particularly slow today. The first caution comes out on lap number 9 as Chuck Bloomers gets into the back of Matas Kazimieras coming off at turn 4. Kazimieras slides back up the track and gets hammered by Wesley Savage. Zach Webster, Kelly SPLISON, and Ryan Griffin also get involved. There is not a lot of room to avoid accidents in this part of the track, and these drivers learned that the hard way. The leaders came into the pits under caution. Rene Ricarmier runs into the back of Ali Riggs, and that pushes Riggs up into Mumba Kumingu as Kumingu was trying to get into his pit stall. Rene Ricarmier was promptly called to race control, probably because this involved multiple cars. Right behind this, Scott Morales shows the class how to slow down for a braking car, doing a good job avoiding the 3 of Todd Rudarschik. Makoto Yamada is trying to make his way down the pit lane. Ali Riggs is coming out, and the two get together. And that will result in some significant damage to the front end of the 22 car. Tough break for Yamada. He had a great run going for once. Also in the pit lane, Jason Bates has Casey Campbell and Scott Dalitz on his right side, and can't avoid Ricky Navarro, who was coming out of his pit stall. Dan McKay leads on the restart with Mumba Kumingu in second and Dale Underwood in third. Ben Atkins has to dive into the pits after the restart, and he completely overshoots his pit stall. Scott Morales also has to come back into the pits shortly after the restart. Mike Howard is having a pretty good run until the 610 car breaks down on him, and he makes absolutely no effort to get out of the way. He gets hit in the back by NICO Petrov. That sends Petrov around, triggering another small pile-up. He gets hit by Philip Borland, Billy Bob Bradburn, and Derek Dudding. There was just no reason for this to happen. If Mike Howard had thought he couldn't get to the inside, he could have just gone up to the outside and let everyone by. Damian Snyder leads on the restart. He gets a pretty good jump over Dan McKay and Scott Dalitz. Dalitz is having a pretty good run so far. Dan McKay will make a challenge for the lead once again, and you see his teammates Jared Anderson and Casey Campbell creeping into the picture. Campbell then makes it 3 wide for the lead with McKay and Damian Snyder, and she will clear them with a lot of help on that inside line. Chuck Bloomers has worked his way up to 9th despite getting into that wreck with Matas Kazimieras. This has been one of the better runs for the Bloomers family racing team. Now let's see if they can finish the race with the car intact for once. DJ Daniels assumes the lead of the race. He is still very strong as the laps click away. The drivers still had to make one more stop after pitting under the first yellow. Damian Snyder leads a small group of cars into the pits. And then on the next lap, Casey Campbell will bring down a much larger group. Jason Teller and Scott Morales stay out an extra lap to inherit the lead of the race, and then they come down. You just saw Edwin Schwartzlowski, Mike Howard, and Todd Stater stay out for one more lap. I'm not sure why they're doing this, as they are on much older tires than the rest of the field, and so when pit stops cycle out, they will probably drop back very far. Coming off the final corner, Edwin Schwartzlowski stays out again. So does Mike Howard. Todd Stater hits the pit lane. I think we might be seeing Edwin Schwartzlowski and Mike Howard roll the dice. The entire field came into the pits on the first caution, but it doesn't look like anybody had enough to make it to the end. But it seems that Schwartzlowski and Howard think so. But at the same time, these two are going to be racing each other, so that can't help their fuel economy much. We'll just have to see how this turns out. In the meantime, here is the battle for third between Damian Snyder, Scott Dalitz, and Jason Teller. Dalitz and Teller are in the running for some of their best finishes of the season, and Teller especially has been needing a good run. His performance has easily been the worst of the Zenith drivers, and much of that is getting involved in messes not of his own doing. Mike Howard powers by Edwin Schwartzlowski with just a handful of laps remaining, but then he seems to remember that he should be in fuel conservation mode and is really slow off the corner. Here comes Schwartzlowski back around the 610. Howard almost shuts the door on him, but he thinks twice, and Schwartzlowski is going to retake the lead through 7. This is not what you want to be doing when you're trying to save fuel, but it doesn't seem to be affecting them too much. The leaders are now taking the white flag, and they are still racing very hard. Mike Howard makes the move to the inside. Both of these drivers are in their rookie seasons, and now they are looking at their maiden wins. And through turn number 2, Mike Howard is going to complete the pass. Schwartzlowski will tuck in behind the 610 on that downhill run into 3. Their speeds are even coming into the corner. Oh, it looks like Schwartzlowski has a better entry than Howard, and Howard washes up the track, opening up the door for Schwartzlowski. They are neck and neck in the run down to 5. They don't even care about fuel at this point. Schwartzlowski starts to nose ahead, and Mike Howard has to check up going into the corner. This gives Schwartzlowski about a 3-car length lead, and he continues to pull on Howard. Howard is not able to make up any ground on the backstretch. Schwartzlowski made headlines at the beginning of the season as the first amputee to compete in ARLA. He was a weekly threat to win in European touring cars despite missing his right arm. And today at the Waltham Motorsports Park, Edwin Schwartzlowski will collect his first ARLA Elite Series victory. Damian Snyder finishes third, almost 30 seconds behind Schwartzlowski and Howard. Herbie Finkelberg in the 96 finishes right behind Snyder. Scott Dalitz brings home 5th in a very good run for the Dalitz family racing team. Jason Teller finishes 6th in the Zenith. I believe that is his best result of the year, so hopefully he can turn around his luck. Dale Underwood finishes 7th, making a great recovery from the 150 laps of Dwyer, in which his engine expired with less than a mile to go. Jared Anderson brings home one of his better runs of the year. Casey Campbell puts on another great performance in the 910 car. And then DJ Daniels rounds out the top 10. Good job by Daniels to get one of his better finishes of the year. And now here are the point standings leaving the Waltham 250. Kevin Monroe is still your points leader, but Rene Ricarmier and Ali Riggs continue to chip away at his lead. Ricarmier is now only 64 points behind. And then CJ Cameron is 4th, a whopping 121 points behind the leader. Everybody behind 3rd is going to need a lot of bad luck from the leaders if they want to get back up there. Jacob Eichholz is still 5th in the standings as his rookie year starts to wind down. He has been extremely impressive this season. Bigsby Foote is still 7th in points despite winning round number 1, but nonetheless his performance this season has been very impressive, as well as the performance of Power Steering Incorporated as a whole. Andy Pearson is still 8th, and then tied for 9th will be Michael Madrigal and Ricky Flush. Flush gained 6 spots today to get back up into the top 10. And now let's look at 11 through 20. Harry Enola is 179 points behind the leader, and steam owner Brenda Riggs is 10 points behind him. There is 1 point separating Leg Ruel and Nick Howard. Rip Tyler is 15th, Taylor Brillin 16th, 1 point separating those two. Gary D'Souza 17th. Edwin Schwartzlowski jumps all the way up into the top 20. Libby Bell is 19th, and Mama Kumengu rounds out the top 20.